You're listening to the Life with Old Dogs podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Mimnaugh, primary caretaker of all of our wonderful senior German Shepherds right here at Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary. Hey there, and welcome to the second season of Life with Old Dogs. This season, we are discussing sanctuary life. Last episode, we talked about how we select the dogs that come here to the sanctuary. And this episode, we're going to talk about what happens once they get here and how we integrate them into the general population of Woody's Place resident dogs. Okay, so let me just say right off the bat, I decided to record this outside today. It's just such a beautiful day, and I'm sitting here on my deck, and I have Jensen and Savvy with me, and Prince is just inside the door laying on his big Barker orthopedic dog bed, and the birds are chirping, and I'm watching some bees build a nest not far away. It's sunny, it's low humidity. Unfortunately, PennDOT is working on our road again out front, which is, a never-ending story. But other than that, it's just, it's peaceful and it's a beautiful day. So we're outside today recording. So as some of you may know, we got a newbie this past Saturday. That it was Saturday, July 24th. And the newbie is Miss Savvy, or Savannah, and she came all the way from Lake Forest, Illinois. We have known about Savvy since, I guess the first contact was June 9th, and she is an owner surrender, and, there was all sorts of drama swirling around this owner surrender, and we really don't do drama here at all. And it was unfortunate. It was another rescue who was involved. And yeah, it just got pretty ugly and whatever. So, but anyway, for reasons I'm not going to get into, Savvy is here and she was an owner surrender. And it was the decision of her owner to surrender Savvy. Savvy is a great girl. Boy, she's just fantastic. So since I've known about Savvy for several weeks before she came to the sanctuary, I feel like I truly got to have a good understanding of who she was and who she was going to be once she arrived here at the sanctuary. First and foremost, she lived with other dogs, another German Shepherd and a small dog. So she was going to get along with dogs. And I knew she was trained professionally, so I knew she knew her commands. It was, capable of understanding commands. And, so that was going to make life easier. But I just felt like she was going to be a good fit. Anyway, she arrived on Saturday, and it was a very long day for her. Her owner actually flew with her from Chicago to Maryland, which is where I drove down to from the Poconos to pick her up, and then we made the long trip back north. It was about a 4-hour drive back north. So Savvy was really stressed and tired by the time she got here, but she's here, and she's doing well. So this episode, we're talking about how I get the new dog acclimated to the Woody's Place resident dogs. And we're just gonna go through what happened with Savvy when she got here, but know that how Savvy got integrated is not a typical situation when a new dog comes in. Hers was atypical. It was very similar to Brandy, and ironically enough, they have very similar personalities, meaning that they're just happy dogs. They're just happy dogs. They're social dogs, and they love other dogs, and, life is grand when they're around other dogs. So, Savvy's situation's a little different, but I'll just briefly go through what happened here. She got back here to the sanctuary. I made sure all the other sanctuary dogs were inside, and the new dog Savvy couldn't see the sanctuary dogs, and I took her and walked her around the sanctuary grounds, and we have several acres here, so walked her all around, walked her where I typically walk the other dogs. She got to stretch her legs. Excuse me, have some exercise. She peed several times. She pooped once. She was, probably holding it for quite some time. Although we did stop in just on the edge of the Pennsylvania border from Maryland for her to go, and she did, but that was a little bit. I could tell she was nervous and was not comfortable, so she didn't want to go. So she went. She relieved herself, and she was just checking everything out. Oh my goodness, everything, every bush, every weed, every tall blade of grass, everything, any place any of the other dogs have peed, and she was picking up a lot of information. I mean, it would be equivalent to us reading the Sunday paper. There's a lot of information in there, and she was picking up a lot of information as she was going along, and it takes time. So we did that. And then once we started heading back toward the house, she was kind of pulling to get into the back door. It was weird. It was like, okay, she knew this was a door and she was going to go inside, but maybe not, what she was used to. So once we go inside, and it's hard to explain, I guess I should do a video, but we come through the back door of my house, and we're kind of like in this little foyer area. And to the right, immediately to the right, is a doorway to my laundry room and another hallway, and then my kitchen. I have a gate installed right there in that doorway. So coming in the back door, there's a doorway, and I have a gate installed right there. And that's where all the rest of the Woody's Place dogs are when I come in with another dog. They're secured behind that gate. Now, some of them might be standing there when I come in. Most of the time, they're not. They're laying down somewhere. Now, from that foyer to the left is my Florida room, and it's a good size room. I don't know. I mean, it might be like 20 by 20, but it's a good size room. It's loaded with windows. I mean, my God, there's like 26 windows in this room. It's like it's like the room of windows, and it's got a nice view out to the back of our property. And if you continue through the Florida room to the other side, there's another door that leads to a good sized deck. That it's all. If dogs can go in and out the door, there's no gate from the deck to go out into the yard or anything like that. It's all railed in. There's railings, and it's all enclosed, but there's no roof on it, so the dogs can't get out. So that's where I take the new dog. New dog goes in there. And I'm sorry. Let me back up a second here. I also have a second gate leading from the foyer to the Florida room. Okay, so to the right, again, there's the gate to the laundry room, and then to the left is the Florida room. I have another gate from the Florida room, the foyer to the Florida room. So there's two gates. So basically the foyer area can be completely gated in. And again, these are gates. These aren't like little baby gates. These are gates. So the newbie goes into the Florida room, and that's where Savvy goes. Now, at this point, the Woody's Place dogs hear ruckus. They can tell a new dog is here, and they're they're lined up in rows in depth at the gate to the laundry room. It's really quite funny seeing all these dogs like in this hallway area, and it's like a cattle chute, and you just see nothing but heads and pointy ears, peering over the gate. It's really funny. So I then secure the new dog or Savvy in the Florida room, and then I open the gate from the laundry room to the foyer area, and I let the dogs go to the second gate, and now they can see Savvy, but they can't get to her, and she can see them, but she can't get to them. So and then I let them, kind of sniff each other, kind of check each other out from afar. And then we go through the process eventually of introducing each dog one-on-one. So Savvy's situation was different. By the time Savvy got here, it was late. We were tired. It was almost the same scenario as Brandy. It was late, and we were just exhausted. And Brandy, I forget, she opened a door. She was able to open a door by herself. I guess it wasn't shut all the way, and she just pushed her way through. And at that time, we only had a couple of other German Shepherds. I think it was Chopper and Rock. And she was just like, "Hey guys, what's up? I'm here, new girl from Florida." And they were just like, "Hey, who how you doing?" They were totally fine with her. Savvy wanted to be with the other dogs, and I think she was looking to them for security, since she had lived with other dogs and a German Shepherd to boot. So I let her meet the very first night. I let her meet Prince and Jensen and Atticus. Brandy and Champ, they couldn't be bothered, and they just wanted to go to bed. So she met them face to face. And again, I don't typically do this on a regular basis, but she met them face to face. And we all had a sleepover in the Florida room here together. And she seemed to, again, take comfort in the other dogs. Now, I knew that Prince, Jensen, and Atticus were going to be fine with her. Again, they're really social dogs. They like to play, except for Jensen. I mean, he tries, but he falls. But because he's a little immobile at this point. But the point is, he likes to be involved. He likes to play, and he likes to be a social dog. So I knew that would go well. But typically, that's not what happens. Once we do the whole Florida room bit, we go through the long process of introducing the dogs one by one. And how we do that is, first we let the newbie decompress. Okay, it's usually like a day or so. We let the newbie decompress. We walk the newbie by himself. We let the newbie out in the Woody's Place dog yard by himself. Just let him be by himself, and just let him see the other dogs and smell the other dogs through the gate. But then we start walking the dogs one by one. And again, I try to have a good understanding of the new dog's personality. I already know the resident dogs of Woody's Place and their personality. So I know who's going to be a good fit for this dog, who might be a bit of a challenge for this dog. And when I say challenge, maybe the new dog is definitely, slowed down. Maybe the new dog's geriatric. Maybe the new dog has mobility issues. And then, a dog like Prince, who also has mobility issues but is very high energy, may not be a good fit for the first meet and greet with the newbie, because Prince's energy can be a bit overwhelming. So it's typically Brandy, because Brandy, she's a great ambassador to Woody's Place. She's super sweet, super easygoing, loves everyone, loves all the other dogs. And she's just very welcoming, and she has a calming presence. So she's usually the first dog that we do introductions with when it comes to, bringing a newbie into Woody's Place. So it takes two of us. Unless I can handle it myself, unless I know it's going to be okay. And we take the two dogs for a walk, the newbie and Brandy. They go for a walk around the sanctuary grounds together. Now, sometimes if we're not sure how it's going to go, we start out using the pie technique. And the pie technique is, it takes two people, and each person has one of the dogs. Both dogs are on a leash, and you start out, I don't know, a good distance away from each other. Let's just say, 25 feet. You start so the dogs can see each other. They know they're there, but they're not right up on top of each other. And you watch their body language and see how they're behaving. Are they pulling? Are they, trying to get to the other dog, whether it's because they're aggressive or excited? Either way, that's not a good idea to let that dog run over to the other dog because, the other dog it's probably going to be upset. Obviously, if it's pulling because it's aggressive, the other dog is going to be upset and ready to protect itself. But even if the dog's excited, jumping around and wants to play, the other dog could still be upset over that energy and not understand what's going on and could still be ready to protect itself. So body language is super, super important. Now, if they're doing that, we don't let them near each other for a little bit. So we start walking parallel to each other with the dogs, and we're walking and we're trying to get the dogs to focus on walking. And then eventually, pending body language, we start, kind of making like a peninsula. We start getting like closer and closer and closer together until the dogs are able to walk side by side and be totally fine with walking side by side. And the idea is to keep walking. So they're focusing on walking. You don't want to stop and let them sniff each other and check each other out or come face to face or whatever. You just want them to be walking next to each other. And then you're paying attention again to their body language, seeing how comfortable they are with one another. Obviously, if they're not comfortable, you need to separate. And keep working at coming closer and closer together. But if they are close, if they're comfortable with one another, maybe they're kind of like bumping into each other a little bit. They really don't care. This one's looking over here, sniffing this one's over here, checking this out. It's like two babies playing beside each other. Like they know they're there. They're not really playing with each other, but they're just kind of sitting there playing, on the floor near each other. That's kind of what we're looking for. That they acknowledge each other, they know that they're there, but they're not super fixated on each other. And eventually, once they're comfortable with one another, then we let them check each other out. Sniff each other's butts, whatever, come face to face for, just a little bit. We don't want them face to face too much right away. And then we continue that process with each and every Woody's Place dog and the new dog. Now, that's a lot on the new dog, depending on how many dogs we have. So that process could take, it could take one day, or it could happen. That process could happen over a couple of days. And once we finally get the newbie acclimated with all the resident dogs, able to walk with each and every resident dog and do that comfortably, then we are able to walk the newbie together with the group. Now the group, they're not on leashes when we walk, but the newbie is on a leash and stays with me or Mr. Woody's Place or Karen or whoever it may be. The newbie is right with a human. So in the event that, something comes up, we can defuse it right away. All right, so that's our first step in getting the newbie acclimated to Woody's Place. It's walking the dogs individually together until they are comfortable with one another. Body language is key, and then we start moving forward to the second step. Now, this whole time, the newbie is still in the Florida room, okay? Not out in general populations. Newbie's still in the Florida room. Newbie's eating back there, sleeping back there. I don't want you thinking the newbie's totally isolated. That's not the case. I mean, there's people, going in and out throughout the day and interacting with that dog. It's not alone. I don't want anybody thinking that, because it's not. But the second step is to start to slowly integrate the dog into general population, throughout the rest of our house here. And again, I just have to say this because I've mentioned it before, because people try to picture Woody's place and they might think that it's an actual facility, which it's not. It's my home. They think that there might be cages all over, which there's not, because we are a cage-free environment. They might think it's dirty because there's all these animals here. And I hear this time and time again. Oh my God, I can't get over how clean it is here. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm a clean person and I want this to be a great experience for these animals here too. And I don't want them, living in a place that smells or is messy or whatever. I mean, that's not to say there's not times that, my sofa might have hair on it and need to be vacuumed because, that's the case a lot of the time, but we're clean. It's clean here. So people, when they come in, they're always surprised by those things. A, it's a house. B, no cages all over. And C, it's not messy or dirty. It's a good size house. Again, my husband and I are fortunate enough to have this house. It's a good size house. It's a really big house actually. And and we have acreage. So we have a decent setup for these to be able to care for these dogs. Okay, so backing up. Newbie's still in the Florida room, still behind the gate. Eventually, we start letting Newbie out into the rest of the house with the other dogs, closely monitoring the situation the whole time. And oftentimes we will leave a leash on Newbie in the house in the event that something happens, like a dog fight happens out of the blue. We weren't expecting it, whatever. It just, things happen because the dogs knew. And when we absolutely think, oh, yeah, this is good, this will be okay, something could happen and it's not okay. So we keep the leash on for a little while. Could be a week. It could be a little bit longer. And basically, the Newbie just drags its leash around. It's on its neck. It drags the leash around. And this way, if there's a dog fight or something like that, we can grab the leash and break it up. Because it's never a good idea to break up a dog fight with your hands or your body. You definitely want to use something to break up the dog fight. We'll talk about that another time, but it's easier to leave the leash on and be able to grab the dog's leash as opposed to grabbing the dog, because that's when people get bit and we don't want that to happen. All right, so Newbie is out in general population. He can go wherever he wants, walk around, get on whatever bed, pick up whatever toy, as long as there's no, as long as the Newbie's not toy possessive, there's toys out all over the place. Because we already know the resident dogs that are here and know that they're not toy possessive. So that's not going to be an issue. But if the new dog is toy possessive, then we put away all the toys until we can get that dog adjusted to the fact that, okay, there's toys here, but they're for everybody. And there are times that never happens, and we just have to deal with that. But typically, the dogs start to understand, oh yeah, there's baskets of toys everywhere. It's cool. I don't have to have that ball right there. I can have this ball. Although, like I said, sometimes that still happens. So Newbie's out. The only time Newbie is not out in the general population is during feeding time or when no one is here, at the house, which really rarely ever happens. But during those times, Newbie goes behind the gate in the Florida room again to eat for sure. And if no one's home, Newbie has to be put behind the gate in the Florida room for his own safety. But we're we're responsible people, and we just want to make sure that that everybody is going to be safe and sound while we're away, because you never know what might happen. And this is a little off topic, but I was just talking with someone the other day who told me this story about I don't know who it was. Somebody passed away and they had a German Shepherd, and the family took the German Shepherd in, and the family had already had a Rottie and a French Bulldog. And I'll just cut to the chase here. The people were away. They left all the dogs out, and the Rottie and the German Shepherd got into a fight, and the German Shepherd killed the Rottie. And the people came home to this. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like I had so many thoughts running through my head. But, number one was what a tragedy. And the second one was why why didn't they make sure that the new dog, the dog that had just come into the situation, why was that dog allowed to, be with the other dogs right away? Like I just don't understand that. It could have been avoided, basically, and it was just a tragedy, just very, very traumatic. So we avoid things like that at all costs. And I'm not saying that accidents don't happen. I'm just saying, why invite an accident? Just be responsible, and you don't know the dog for sure. Make sure it's secure for the dog's sake and for everybody else's sake. So that's it. Okay. Second step is dog is allowed out in general population, being monitored the whole time, but has to be put in the Florida room behind the gate when it's time to eat, and when we are not home, or even at night. When we're sleeping, if the dog is not with us, right there in the bedroom with us, then it has to go in the Florida room behind the gate. And that typically lasts for a couple of weeks to a month until we feel certain that we understand the dog. I just posted something on Facebook this morning. It's the 3, 3, and 3 thing, where it's 3 days for the new dog to decompress, 3 weeks for the new dog to get to know your routine, and 3 months for the dog to finally start to feel like it's at home. And that's true for the most. I mean, that's it's a good guideline, but it takes some dogs longer, some dogs not as long, some dogs longer to decompress and know the routine and start to feel at home. So you do have to keep that in mind, that these dogs are going through a traumatic situation where they just lost their home, and now they're in this new situation, this new place, all these new smells with all these other dogs, and it's overwhelming. So there is a time for decompression, learning the routine, and then starting to truly feel like, all right, this is my life now, and I'm just going to have to get used to it. So the 3-month thing, that is the final step. When the newbie starts feeling like this is their home, they're totally relaxed. You can tell by their body language. They know the routine. Everybody's fine with everybody. Then that's when the newbie has full reign, doesn't have to be behind any gates or anything like that. Again, unless we absolutely can't trust that dog, then we have to implement a plan where, if we're out, that dog still has to go behind the gate. If we have food aggression, like we do with Prince, definitely has food aggression, and Jensen can be food aggressive as well. Those two, Jensen's been with us for 2 years now. Prince has been with us since Easter this past Easter, 2021. They've never been able to eat in general population. They have to go behind gates or in separate rooms. And it will always be that way, because they pound down their food and then they immediately bum rush another dog who's taken their time eating and steal their food. And as you can imagine, that doesn't go too well. Dogs like Atticus will definitely fight back. Poor Champ and Brandy, they're both 13 now, and their priorities are their food and their bed, and that's it. So a lot of the time they're eating in bed, and Jensen will scarf down his food and then run over one of the more vulnerable dogs and steal their food, and they just might let him because they're just not really capable of fighting back, and that's not going to fly. So if a dog is food aggressive, they don't ever get to eat in general population. And when it comes to situations like giving treats or whatever, treats don't get tossed on the floor and then nobody pays attention to what's happening because, a dog fight can happen over that. So treats are given, and the dog eats it right then and there with someone watching and monitoring and making sure none of the other dogs are running over to get the treat. And it works out pretty well. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't fights here, that there aren't times when things arise. Like for several years now, we have been super heavy in the male department, like lots of boys and hardly any girls. In fact, there are 4 male German Shepherds, senior German Shepherds, male German Shepherds right now that I know need homes, and I couldn't take them. I'm trying to help them find a home, but I couldn't take them because I just couldn't have another male here. We already have too many. We needed another female to balance things out. And, there wasn't another local senior German Shepherd that was a female. So Savvy was a great fit, even though she was a little further away. She was a great fit, and we needed a female to balance things out. But there definitely have been altercations. Prince has actually gotten into a fight with every dog here. His energy is just, he's a great guy, and I really like him, and he has DM, so he has mobility issues, but I'll tell you what, I mean, he is just what's his is his, and what's everyone else's is his. And the other dogs don't love that. So he's gotten into a fight with every one of the other dogs here. And of course, we've managed to deal with it. But Prince, we need to keep a close eye on him for the most. He's definitely better with females than he is with males, but I have to watch his body language and his energy level quite often. Now, the only thing that I can say is because of his mobility issues, it's very easy to break up a dog fight. I mean, the dog fight might last a hair of a second, or it might even start. And I'm able to stop it right away because he really can't stand too well. So he's putting forth the effort, but his body just is not capable of, backing him up. It's funny, but it's not funny. So body language is the key. Being proactive in introducing the newbie to the rest of the group is key because it really sets the tone for the rest of the relationship when that dog is here. Not giving them free rein right away is key. Again, Brandy and Savvy were the exception to that just because they're such easygoing, very, very appropriate dogs, in regard to being with a bunch of other dogs. So, and then making sure that the dogs are 100% comfortable and acclimated before you start allowing them to have free rein about the house or the facility or whatever the case may be. So that's how we do it in a nutshell. It's a little bit laborious, and it takes some time. It can take longer for some dogs and hardly any time for dogs like Brandy and Savvy, but it is definitely a process. And again, it has to be done correctly or else it's just not going to fly. So we get asked questions quite a bit about the sanctuary, and I'm going to say that's in the top 5. How do you get all the dogs to get along? And I often, just my short answer is it's not easy. And it's not, because it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. And even if you put in time, patience, and you feel like you understand, it still might not go, perfectly. In fact, it's probably not going to go perfectly. I mean, you have to anticipate that there are going to be, altercations between dogs at some point or another for some reason or another. And you have to know how to diffuse that situation. But again, key is introducing them properly. I mean, it would be ideal if we could do it on neutral territory somewhere, but that's just not realistic. So we do the best we can walking the dogs here around the sanctuary, um, and that typically works for us. So all right, I have gone on long enough. It's over 30 minutes now. Next episode, we are having our friend Deanna from Animal Sanctuary down in Tennessee. She is going to be on, and she is going to be talking about her sanctuary life, and how she deals with introducing new animals and daily tasks that she has to deal with. Now she has dogs. She has a German Shepherd. She has cats, but she has farm animals. So it's going to be a little bit different. But sanctuary life is sanctuary life, whether it be pigs, cows, dogs, cats, whatever. When you're living with a group of animals, there certainly needs to be a plan in place for how you handle things. So Deanna's going to be on, and I can't wait to talk with her. All right, folks, thanks for hanging in there with me, and until next time, be well.